Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And it's time for Playa Props here on a Monday to kick off this work week. We have a 7-game slate to choose from. We've got 4 picks here for you. Also got a couple game videos up, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. You can also head to thelines.com. That's where we put all of these stuff up in this great content up in written form. And we have our odds finder tool on there. You can use that to make sure you're getting the best juice back on all these Playa Props you're making in the NBA this season. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into your first one for Monday night's slate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is the most confident one, but I think you can get ahead of this with Giannis coming back after 12 days off, resting his knee. I mean, his prop is at 28.5 points, and Caesars gives you minus 111. You can go up to 29.5 and get better odds. But, I mean, what was he at, like 33.5 consistently before he rested that knee? He had a couple quiet games. I think you can blame the knee soreness. And then Drew Holiday been killing it in his absence. Chris Middleton might play tonight for the first time in a while. But I mean, the Bucks still know where their bread is buttered, and I mean, this is just such an easy matchup to knife through the Pistons defense. He scored 30 plus in 5 straight against Detroit, and that's in just 31 minutes per game. And actually, the public seems to think Detroit can cover at home here. Money coming in on Detroit plus 11. So if it is close, more power to them. This is a Detroit defense that allows the highest 2-point percentage to opponents, allows the second most paint points, second most points overall. And obviously Giannis has had his way. So I think it's just an opportunity to capitalize because we haven't seen it in a while, but we can, I remember looking at those numbers and saying, oh, when Giannis gets at least 2+ days of rest, what happens next? Well, that was prior to his insane lines against the Bulls, like 44-23. He had 3, I think, insane lines in a row when he got a little extra rest. So I think he comes back from the knee soreness here and puts up his usual big line.
Yeah, I don't hate it because Detroit and Giannis, and that's all I need to know. I don't love picking him coming back unless, I guess I don't know enough about, has he been ready to play for a little bit and just hasn't been to keep him out because, like you said, Drew's been playing pretty well. They went through a stretch, just a couple games in a row where they played the Pacers and Raptors before the Cavs last game. Maybe you don't bring him back for any of those and you bring him back for this easy one, but I'm just scared of taking a player I haven't seen in a while. Like you said, you're kind of getting ahead of it because of taking advantage of the fact that maybe people don't want to bet on Giannis because of the fact that they haven't seen him in a while. But if this was 28.5 right before the injury, then yeah, without question, I would take that which is crazy that it's it's like 4 or 5 points too low for a Giannis total, at 28.5. But that's what it was before. And in this matchup, that's basically what it probably would have been at if he hadn't gotten hurt and was still playing at a similar torrid pace, is like closer to 32.5 points. So if you still believe he's going to come out in the same, capability, as he was before he got hurt, then yeah, I go ahead and hit the 29 points for sure on that one. I'm going to go ahead and move on to a guy who, man, this team is such a freaking mind mess, if you will. But Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks, 37 points and assists, so over 36.5 for him is what I would take here. Minus 115 on DraftKings. They're playing the Bulls, also hemorrhage points, and you kind of expect this one to be high scoring, like the way most of Atlanta and Chicago's games have been in the course of the last few to 3 weeks. The last 3 versus Chi City, 31 points a game for Trae with 11 assists, about a 32.5% usage, looking at about 39.5 minutes per game. I believe there's an overtime or 2 in there as well. His last 9 on the road where they're playing, 26.5 or so, about 10 assists per game, just a tick under, but still that 31% usage and 36 minutes per game in that time. About 2.5 made threes on 41.5%. We started to see him pick up the amount of threes that he's shooting. So I think if you like the roughly 10 assists for him tonight to 11 assists, which I think is definitely fair, to get 26 points if he's going to be making hopefully about 3 threes tonight, I think that's the stat line that you look for in that sense. And I think there will be enough possessions tonight that you feel good about Trae getting his.
Yeah, it's a 239 total, and it's hard to imagine Trae not scoring at least 26 points in that type of environment. And then I really like the assists, I think, against the Bulls team that's not good guarding the pick and roll. and Trae has both his pick and roll partners back now, right? In Capella and Collins, and Vucevic, a guy he's being able to exploit, which is why you see 11 assists per game in the last 3 against the Bulls. So I think you put the two together, it should get over there in a high scoring game. The Bulls play some crazy shootouts sometimes. So we're going to go to Orlando here and actually target the Celtics defense because Marcus Smart is not playing, Brogdon not playing, maybe Rob Williams doesn't play either. I mean, he's appears to be on a bit of a minutes restriction even when he does play. And, I mean, how much is Al Horford going to go on the road? I mean, we will see a lot of Luke Cornett, who's still a pretty good rim protector, but Peyton Pritchard is going to be out there a lot with no Smart Brogdon. And I mean, he's incredible in terms of his effort on both ends of the floor, but he is a limited defender in the NBA. So I'm looking at Markelle Fultz. And I think you want the whole package, the PRA at 21.5, because he is a really good peripheral stats guy. I mean, 12.5 points if you want it, sure. I mean, he is scoring 14 in his last 10, supplementing that with 6 assists and 4.5 boards to get you about 25 PRA per game. So I think the market is kind of undervaluing him because Boston can be a great defense, but without Marcus Smart, they just don't have that same kind of fire. Jaylen Brown's also playing through injury. Tatum had to miss a game with the wrist and wrist soreness. In any case, I mean, Boston is not going to be as fired up for this one after a close game with Toronto and that emotional win over the Warriors. In the last 15 days, they're giving up nearly 8 assists and 6.5 rebounds to point guards. So if you do just want the rebounds assists, you can get 10 peripheral stats at plus 112 at FanDuel for Fultz. So I think that's a little bit better juice since I am saying PRA, but let's trust the peripherals more. Why not just go with the rebounds and assists?
Yeah, I feel it. I think because of the fact that there's going to be a little bit easier to attack are the Celtics from the top. I think that's kind of why I like Fultz with points as well, to be honest. I think he's going to be coming right down the lane without a Marcus Smart. Maybe a Derek White obviously is taking him on a lot more at that point with enough size and a good defender as well in Derek White. But you would love to have Smart and Brogdon in this one. And if Rob Will is even on a minutes limit, that would also be why I would move on and talk about Wendell Carter Jr. here, because I was eyeing him. We're not, very easily both of these guys can get their props. I don't think there's any negative correlation here, but if anything, there's a positive correlation because we've got a ton of assists for Fultz. And then Wendell Carter Jr., I kind of like everything, like whatever you'd want to take for him. The points, rebounds, and assists is 24.5. That's minus 110, so it's pretty good odds. The points and rebounds are at 22.5 for him. That's even money. Even the rebounds and assists, as he's been diming up a lot lately, I like at about 10.5. For him to get that. That's minus 120 for him to get 11 rebounds and assists combined. I like all of it, just depending on how confident you are in the points or the juice that you prefer to have here. The last thing I would say is a double-double for him is plus 235, which I really like those odds. And I mean, he's been getting about 9 boards a game in his last like 10 games or so. But it's like 9.7. So for him to have plus 235 to get, the 10 points, I feel is pretty much a lock. The rebounds there at 10 is like the only thing you're a little bit worried about maybe, but I still, if you're going to get 2.5 to 1 on your money on that, basically I'm good with it. His last 4 versus Boston, 14 points a game, 12.3 boards, 4.5 assists. That's all in 35 minutes, which he hasn't been getting the minutes quite as much in his last roughly 10 games, but in the last 5 he's been coming back and getting those minutes back up above 30, closer to 32. He's been averaging 35 against the C's in the last 4 times he played them last season. 45% from the field on about 12.5 field goal attempts, and he only failed to get those double-digit rebounds once, where he got 8 against Boston. So the last 3 that he played, he's been on a big slump, to be honest, but I think this is a slump buster in that sense, and in the 7 games before that, he was averaging 16 points and 9 boards in just 29 minutes on 55-44 splits. So yeah, making about 1.5 threes a game as well. So the C's in their last 2 weeks have been giving up the 6th most rebounds to centers, the 10th most points. So I think there's some opportunity for Wendell Carter to kind of, at least get, let's say he gets the 9-10 boards at least. I think he's getting the 3 assists and then the points anywhere from 14 to 15. So I feel really good about all the stats for him tonight.
Well, I mean, interesting you call 10 points a lock the way he's struggled in his last 3. I mean, if you are going with the regression to the mean and say, no, he's not going to struggle for a 4th, then we can expect him to get 10 points because that's where he's been at before that. I mean, averaging 16 once he got healthy. So
Right.
I think, yeah, it's more of a betting on him coming around and trying to get ahead of that. And I think, yeah, the points rebound seem good and the double seems good because Orlando, yeah, they just played Boston tough the last 2 times they met them. And if Boston's shorthand in the front court, expect Wendell and company to take advantage.
Totally. Yeah. You talked about Vooch, by the way, and his inability to guard pick and roll. I bet they'd love to have Wendell Carter Jr. on that Bulls team try to defend Trae tonight. At any rate, that's all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. Check out the other couple game videos we have up for you today as well. And until we see you next, happy betting.